one.
Thank you, Linda. And so good morning, everybody. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, Justice Lee. So pleased to have you here. And those of you out there in our audience, please. I'm sorry, Justice Lee, did you say something that
I said thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And so thank you all for being here. Obviously, we have a quorum here today. And so what I'm going to do is let's just go ahead and kick off the meeting. And so the first order of business is that are there any corrections or additions to the minutes that were sent to you? And I'm sorry, here's Chuck. Hi, Chuck.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Chuck, I just asked if there's any corrections or additions to the minutes, and not hearing any corrections or additions to the minute. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, in a second.
Second.
Okay, in a second. I'm just going to do a hand raise. All those in favor, raise your hand, and we'll do it that way. Okay. Thank you all. Okay, the minutes have been approved. The second item of business then, Dana. And by the way, Dana and Noel, thank you again for the wonderful work that you guys do and putting all of this together. And it makes it flow so easy as I sit here and look at the work that you've done, and particularly gathering up the statistics. And that's the second item of business, is that, if you'll go to the one you kind of flip through, the one that I always find of interest, all the commissioners have this. If you'll go to, I think it's the very next one. Okay, there you go. There you go. And so, Marcus and I were chit-chatting beforehand, and I think both of us were not terribly surprised that almost 65% of the mediations are being conducted in person, which means 35% by ODR. I guess that seems about right. I don't know if any of you are surprised, and I'm not sure what we take away from that, but about 65% are still in person. And so maybe that's going to require some discussion at some point, whether or not to encourage, not encourage. I think that we've settled back into in person. I think but still, I think maybe the 35% number may also have significance for us, that's still being done by video conference. But
Could
thank you for
a
those.
Comment here, Steve?
Yes, go right ahead.
Just speaking for the Tennessee Community Mediation Centers, because we work so much with people for whom there exist all kinds of barriers, including, time, access, travel. Our numbers are skewed the other way in terms of percentages. And so I could say that, at some point we should continue to talk about how we take that into consideration as well. And that remote mediation continues to be an incredible tool for providing access to justice for people, particularly in our rural communities, people who work hourly jobs. And in fact, I'd remind you, we just got substantial investment from the American Arbitration Association to continue that, building that infrastructure.
I think those are great observations. And so I'm sure the committee will be discussing these. Is that, do we still have this matter under discussion of reporting? Is the issue of reporting in from community mediations something that's still under discussion, Sarah?
Most assuredly, yes.
Okay. Well, let's package those things up, and let's certainly have the committee start taking a look at those. And so, thank you. Anybody else? Any other comments about that? Okay.
I would just second what Sarah said, that my experience has been that a lot of the community mediators are using an online platform to do their work.
Yeah. Okay. Dana, the staff report.
Okay, staff report. Let's go back to the agenda.
Okay, so we have closed the renewal season. It ended March the 31st technically. I will say there's been a couple of exemptions, but that was for people who may have had some technical difficulty, but they had already started their application before the 31st. As of April 1st, we ran the report and we had 1,196 active mediators who renewed. We have approximately 1,350 mediators. So 86% is good. I compared it to this time last year was 88%. So we're pretty much on track. The other update is the medical debt, the online dispute resolution pilot is still going. We are still just in East Tennessee, but the steering committee is working to move into West Tennessee as well as Middle Tennessee. One of the things that has that on hold is at the end of last year, the committee submitted some IT fixes to our platform vendor. There were approximately 6 fixes that was asked to be made to the platform in order for it to be more user-friendly for both hospitals, mediators, and then the debtors. We met with them last week. They had some questions, and based on that, the AOC has a project manager that is over this platform, IT-wise. And so she requested that we have a standing meeting. So every 2 weeks or every week, we will have a standing meeting if we need it, so that she can continue to monitor the progress. It was a really good meeting. It's some really good fixes. And as you know, our goal is for this to go statewide and eventually be bigger than just medical debt. So it's going along great.
Dana, would you agree with me that earlier still sees this as a success?
They do. And I've also worked with, as you know, Judge Alexander McVeigh was the initial judicial officer on the pilot who started this out of his court. And they are running reports. And we have some data, but the data isn't as accurate as we would like for it to be. So we're working to clean that up, because one of the things we do want to be able to provide to SJI, who provides the technical grant for this, as well as other hospitals who we want to buy in, is to show them the data. And so we ran some reports and found that it wasn't as accurate as it should be due to some old debt that got commingled. But yes, Erlanger is very much supportive of this and continues to work with us. They're a great partner.
And hopefully then with a lot of other assistance, we can get this spread throughout the state. What a great program it is.
Yes.
Commissioner Tarpley has joined us. He joined us a few minutes ago. Good morning, John Tarpley.
Good morning. How are you?
Just fine. Glad to have you here, John.
Glad to be here. Sorry I was a touch late.
That's okay. That's all right. And so, all right. Any other comments about the ODR report? It's going to be a great benefit to our communities, and it's gained nationwide attention. I know that. Okay. Communications Committee, Cindy is not here. So Dana or somebody on the committee, would you like to? Okay.
So the committee met on February the 23rd and approved what we call a newsletter schedule. And Sarah, if you want to jump in on this, because I know that you had a lot of input, but we have, the committee did develop a schedule, and we expect the first newsletter to be out soon.
Mhm.
And then we have one for summer and then one for fall. We do have some major announcements. As you know, Justice Lee is retiring and going on to bigger and better things. And where we'll also in December, there's going to be another changing of the chair. Mr. Shields will have met his time as commission chair. And so those things will be incorporated as well. And then also I wanted to let you guys know that always the AOC strives to work with our mediators to maintain their listings and do what we can to keep mediators listed and to bring on our new mediators. So we did have multiple renewal emails that we sent out We sent those out through MailChimp. And then what we did to make sure we captured those who may be impacted the most if they didn't renew, I personally sent emails directly to those mediators who had not renewed, who if they lapsed, were going to have to retake their initial 46-hour training, and actually had quite a good feedback for that. And so from a communication standpoint, that's where we are. We have sent out save the date for the fall workshop. I know that time people are starting to plan vacations and things like that. So we wanted to go ahead and do a save the date. So that's out there as well.
Yeah. I got a couple of comments. Anybody else have any comments about the newsletter? And so, well, first off, so you probably know this, but in terms of people saying, Rule 31 mediators that have let their listing lapse, we have included now a disclaimer that says you're solely responsible. In effect, you can't rely upon the fact if you don't get an email from the ALC staff. And so we've made it very clear that it's each individual mediator's responsibility. I say that for not just you commissioners, but also those of you watching here. And also we have put that in writing that they have that sole responsibility to make sure that they do their listing. The other thing that I think I'll share with you at this particular point, I'm going to do a one-page history of Justice Lee. I think I shared it with you, a one-page history of Rule 31. And also Dana made a suggestion and I thought I'd share with you because it's going to be part of the newsletter. We'll put it in there is that Shelby Grubbs handed me when he was the first chair of the ADRC and was involved from all of this from the very beginning, about 2-inch thick, 2.5-inch thick of papers of all of the committee work from beginning to end to the implementation of Rule 31. And so I was going to scan it in, and Dana has made the suggestion that we scan it in and make it part of the website if somebody wants to see the history of this. And so it's got some fascinating discussion on how some of these rules evolved. And so those of you that may have some history buff in you might find that interesting. So, okay, Rule and Policy Review Committee. I've got a couple of comments, but any comments from who would it be, Rick? Or you want me to jump in about the policies?
Well, it's me, and that's
sorry,
fine.
Betsy.
I was probably going to defer to you anyway, because the main thing that I think we would address is your suggestion that we review some of the policies, and we haven't really discussed that in our committee yet.
Yeah. No, it has not made it to your committee yet. I wanted to let you all know that I've reviewed the policies and had some discussion. Is that I'm getting ready to send on then these suggestions, Betsy Meadows, to you and your committee, and they will be discussed between now and the July meeting. But there are some things in regards to the policies that we'll want to discuss, and I'll be sending those out to you, Betsy Meadows, and your committee between now and then regarding some of the policies. I think, Rick Ladd, you pointed out one, for example, that I agreed with you that in fact it was just simply repetitive of the rule itself. Actually, it contradicted the rule. And obviously, policies can supplement and enhance those rules, but it certainly can't contradict the rule. And so in a very minor way, by the way, it was very minor. And so as a result, then we're going to be taking a look at those. And Betsy Meadows, I'll be getting those to you for your committee probably very shortly. Okay.
That'd be great. And also last week we received a request from the Pro Bono and Joint Advisory Committee to review Policy 6 as well. So I guess those will overlap with each other. And the only other thing I really have to report, and I think everybody's aware of this, is that the amendment for the to increase the number of training hours for mediators who want the domestic violence training. That has now been increased from 12 to 16 hours effective June 1. So that's included in your information as well. No, I think most of us already know that. Maybe some of the mediators do not. And that's all I have.
Okay, and I suspect Justice Lee was part of shepherding that through the process. And so thank you again, Justice Lee. For your
Well, and
efforts.
Steve, thank you for sort of saving us, because I think we had that ready to go into effect much sooner we wrote it up that it would be effective upon adoption, and you alerted me to the fact that these trainers needed time to adjust and get ready. So we amended that order and moved it to June 1, I think, is what we decided was a good start point. So thank you for thinking of that, and so that it's much more workable and feasible. But I think it's a good change.
Yeah, it's a good change. And I always appreciate it when the Supreme Court can pivot that quickly. And
Well, when we screw up, it's really good to fix it quickly.
yeah.
I thought that was a screw up. So I just had not thought, I wanted to just get it done, and it hadn't occurred to me all those steps in between, but it occurred to you. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And so the Pro Bono Mediation Advisory Joint Committee, Sarah?
Yes. Well, okay, first on the agenda is the pro bono recognition list. Dana, do you want to share that, or? And these are, we will be sending out our appreciation to the Rule 31 mediators who did 50 or more hours of pro bono mediation in the previous calendar year, and who, of course, logged their hours dutifully. So our qualifiers for 2022, as you can see here, are Don Forshey, Denise Jackson, and Karen Phillips. And we are most appreciative.
Wow.
Yes?
Wow. That is just incredible, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, it's just, you think every one of those hours helped someone kind of fortify themselves against, potential real crises, and they were able to mediate and, get back to what matters in life. So we are so grateful.
Yeah,
for
what a
their-
gift. What a gift that is. And of course, Justice Lee will be talking to you about what occurs at the annual meeting in terms of the presentation, and we'll circle back with you about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I add a little bit?
Sure.
And also, we modified the AOC website. So when each one of these recipients received an email yesterday notifying them that they had been recognized for their good work. And the AOC has what they call a Supreme Court pro bono recognition program. And there's a link when you go, and it recognizes all the pro bono recipients out of the lawyers, the legal students, and the mediators. So it's called Mediators for Justice, and we updated the website. So this is the third year for recognition, and it's all up to date. And you can go on and click, and everyone who's received this award from 2021 and 22, they're on there. And also a part of the recognition is they are invited to attend the workshop in the fall.
Yeah. Thank you. Again, what a gift they have given to our community citizens and things. And so, Sarah Fiegel, what's next?
Yes, just wanted to quickly report that the committee met April 10th, and we discussed two issues, both of which have been sent to Betsy Meadows and the Ruling Policy Committee. These two items are, firstly, we are asking for an update, a policy change to the mediator renewal application fee. What we would propose is that Rule 31 mediators who attest that they only provide pro bono mediation, right, via one of the CMCs, so they are only maintaining Rule 31 listing to provide pro bono mediation have their renewal fee waived in a year where they have provided at least 5 pro bono mediations in the previous year. And this is really to help appreciate and retain some of these people who only are providing this access to justice. The second request is that that the Rule and Policy Committee approve a policy allowing us to basically define what we mean at the AOC when we refer to a Tennessee Community Mediation Center. So this is a really a policy around identifying and recognizing specific criteria that that clarify to people who want to know, who counts as a CMC. So what that process is. And that's what we've got.
That's right. That's a needed clarification.
It's just
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
needed
clarification.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think we're looking at it as a policy. There's only one reference in the rule to CMCs. And I think that's section 5D1 or whatever, but there's just one reference to it, but there's no definition, there's nothing. And so thank you. And so I know Betsy Meadows, that's why your committee is going to be very busy in the next few weeks when you start taking a look at all of these. So any other discussion from what Sarah Fiegels had to say? Any other discussions? Okay. Dana? Grievance Committee?
All right. Since the last meeting, we've received 3 grievances. 2 have been disposed of. The chair appointed 2 grievance committees from each of the regions from where the complaint was received. And those have been disposed. We are currently working on a 3rd one, gathering information. And once we have that, I'll submit that to the chair and he will move forward.
And Betsy Meadows, I hate to burden you with so many things, but your committee is going to be taking a look at the question of, we've had some of these grievances over the past several years in which they were not Rule 31 mediations. And they filed a complaint and it says the complaint shall go forward. And so we've been discussing the fact that is it really necessary when it's just so obvious that, if you participated in a Rule 31 mediation, you file a complaint. Well, if there has been no Rule 31 mediation, do we really want to go forward and with the complaint and forming the committee? And so that's something that's going to be on your plate to discuss. Okay.
Okay.
Gosh, Rick Ladd, you had no ethics advisory opinions, did you?
No, all the ethical issues these days are limited to within the Beltway with one extension into Manhattan. So we had no ethical issues.
Well, hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. You'll probably have some questions coming up about things, but thank you for that very brief and entertaining report. And so the Training and Education Committee, Marcus Rudolph.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see all your beautiful smiling faces again. Going to talk about our 4 main topics for the Training and Education Committee. Ms. Schmidt, can you put the agenda for the sharing aspect, please? I want to say thank you to the AOC for all your hard work and helping all the committees, and thank you to Mr. Charles Hill and Ms. Linda Seeley for your tireless effort and hard work. You're great colleagues. First topic will be an update for the training providers. All approved Rule 31 training providers have been directly notified by the program manager in regards to the newly amended Rule 31, specifically the change in regards to domestic violence training requirements, we'll talk about in a little bit. The AOC website has been updated. A Supreme Court order was posted, as well as effective due date, as we've talked before, which will be June 1st of this year. Any questions, comments? All right. Second topic would be in regards to the upcoming ADRC workshop. We have picked a date, which will be Friday, October 13th. This event will be a hybrid format, which will be in person and online until there's a need to go remote only if the remote only arises. And the location will be at Lipscomb University, the Nashville campus. So I want to say thank you to Lipscomb for partnering up with us again and allowing us to use your resources. You've been a great partner thus far. We have, in regards to continuing education hours, we will offer up to 6 CME credits. And also our goal is to offer up at least 5.5 CLE credits and 1 dual CLE credit. And lastly, in regards to the workshop, the committee is working on to identify training topics and trainers. So any committee members, if you have any suggestions or recommendations for trainers or for topics, please send that to me, Mr. Hill, Ms. Seeley, or to Dana Schmidt, and we'll compile that information. We'll try to do our best to put something together for an agenda.
Yeah, Marcus Rudolph, let me comment there. I have received independently then some suggestions that will be forwarded to your committee, obviously, because between now and July, then your committee will kind of put together then the workshop format. We'll get it out to the fellow commissioners and let them take a look at it. But that will all be done here in the next month or so to get in place. And I echo what you said. Thank you, Lipscomb. If there's anybody from Lipscomb watching, certainly we appreciate and have always appreciated the partnership that we've had with Lipscomb over the years.
Okay. All right. Third topic is the domestic violence training update. And I will ask my colleagues, Mr. Hill or Ms. Seeley, to step in and make any comments after I speak. The Training and Education Committee met on March 7th. Discuss implementing the new training hours requirement for domestic violence designation. The committee voted to approve an amended DV training application, which is, if you're following, it's on attachment 6. Mr. Hill or Ms. Seeley, do you have any comments about that?
I
No,
don't
sir.
have any. Linda may.
No, sir, I don't have any comments.
Okay. And secondarily, the committee also met on April 6th to discuss and vote on 4 training waiver requests, which I'll get to in a second, as well as discuss and voted on domestic violence training to the virtual and hybrid pilot programs. At this time, the committee continues to revise the application for these programs. Any questions, comments? All right. And the coup de grace, we've got the training waiver requests that we voted on as a committee. There are 4 that I will talk about. The first is application ID 161226, which is attachment number 7. Applicant is applying for a family listing with a domestic violence designation. The applicant is seeking a waiver of Rule 31 training requirements for the domestic violence designation. The applicant produced work experience and training from a California trainer completed with 6 years of the application. The committee determined that the work experience and training was substantially equivalent of that required by Rule 31. So thus, the committee recommend to approve this applicant. Are there any questions or comments before I ask for a motion? Okay. Is there a motion to approve applicant 161226?
So move.
Second.
All right. Thank you both. All parties in favor to approve applicant ID 161226 for family listing with a domestic violence designation, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Are there any opposed? All right. So moved. Second applicant. Applicant ID 161242. Applicant is applying for a civil listing The applicant is seeking a waiver of Rule 31, Section 14 training requirements. The applicant produced a course completion document indicating completion of 3 semester hours mediation course and has been completed within 6 years of the application. The committee determined the training documentation was substantially equivalent to Rule 31 requirements. So thus, the committee also recommends to approve this applicant. Are there any questions or comments before I ask for a motion? Okay. Is there a motion to approve applicant 161242?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you both. All parties in favor of approving applicant ID 161242 for civil listing, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, so moved. Third applicant, applicant ID 162394, which is attachment number 9. Applicant is applying for a family listing with a domestic violence designation. The applicant is seeking a waiver of Rule 31, Section 14 training requirements. The committee determined that the applicant's work experience and training was substantially equivalent to Rule 31 requirements. So thus, the committee recommends to this applicant. Any questions? Is there a motion to approve applicant 162394?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you both. All parties in favor of approving applicant ID 162394 for family listing with a domestic violence designation, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, so moved. And the last training waiver request, applicant ID 161221, which is attachment number 10. Applicant is applying for a dual listing. The applicant is seeking a waiver of Rule 31 training requirements. The committee determined that the mediator was in good standing in another state. Thus, the committee recommended to approve this applicant. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve applicant 161221?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, thank you very much. All parties in favor of approving applicant ID 161221 for dual listing, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so moved. That concludes my report.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Marcus Rudolph, and your committee. Hard work, I know. The Credentials Committee, I don't think Lori Thomas Reed is here. Who's going to be handling that then?
Steve, I volunteered to step in
Okay,
for
thank you.
Lori. And so this is Mark Harwell. I'll go ahead and address the Credentials Committee report. There were actually 34 new applications. The minutes reflect 33, but they're actually 34 new applications. The committee met on April 10, 2023 to review those applications, and wouldn't you know it? And 23 are recommended to the ADRC by the Credentials Committee for approval without any dispute. Those 23 are listed in attachment number 17 to our agenda today.
Okay.
If you would like, I can reference each ID number for the 23 for the record, or we can identify them through attachment number 17, whichever you prefer, Steve.
Well, I think you've all got attachment number 17. I think that's sufficient enough. They're very clearly identified there in attachment 17.
Correct. So may I entertain a motion to approve the 23 that the Credentials Committee has recommended to the ADRC for approval without dispute?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Marcus has already worked through the 4 applications for training waiver requests, and all 4 have been approved. So we'll advance to section C. There were 5 applications which were presented to the Credentials Committee with the disciplinary history that was under review. And the 5 applications, applicant ID 162317, applicant ID 16288, applicant ID 162394, applicant ID 161781, and applicant ID 162578. Those are, if you want to specifically look at the attachments, those are attachments 11 through 14 for a thorough discussion of the credentialing committee's evaluation of the disciplinary histories. And based upon that review, the committee has recommended approval of all 5. Is there any question or is there any discussion? May I entertain, would anyone like to make a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Or any opposed? It passes unanimously. And the last credentialing, the last part of the report for the credentialing committee has to do with 2 applicants. The committee determined that the 2 applicants did not meet the minimum application requirements pursuant to Rule 31. Number 1, that was applicant ID 161830, attachment number 15. That applicant was applying for a family listing. After consideration of all the documentation provided by that applicant, the committee determined that the applicant required 10 years work experience in family law was not met. There was simply not enough evidence provided of the 10-year work experience. So the committee has recommended a deferral in order for the applicant to provide further clarification of the work experience so that the committee can make a more informed decision about that 10-year requisite work experience for family law. So is there any question or discussion? Well, I'm going to make a motion. The committee recommends deferral. Is there anyone who wants to make a motion in support of the committee's recommendation?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to defer, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? The deferral is met unanimously. The second one is applicant ID 162045, attachment number 16. That applicant was applying for a civil listing. After considering all the documentation provided by the applicant, the credentialing committee determined that the applicant required 6 years full-time work experience, and the committee did not receive adequate evidence of that 6 years work experience. Accordingly, the committee is recommending a deferral of applicant 162045 in order for that applicant to clarify and provide documentation clarifying the work experience if possible. Do I have a motion in support of the committee's recommendation? Deferral?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation for deferral or the motion to defer, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 Any opposition? The deferral is unanimously approved. That concludes the credentialing committee's report, Steve.
Any other discussion before I turn to some closing comments? Is it AOC staff, you make this so easy. Your outline of all of the topics and everything help us make this meeting so efficient. And we appreciate it very much. Committees, as always, thank you. I know we've got a lot of work between now and our next meeting on July 18th. As a reminder to you, we're all going to be meeting on the 17th. I hope to see everyone there. We'll have some time before dinner on the 17th, which is, we'll get the information out. I think dinner starts around 7 o'clock. Is that right, Dana? Is that, and we will have a block of rooms available at the Hampton Inn. Probably I'll get there early. We can meet and talk there, chit chat, and then those that want to can caravan over to the restaurant and then back. And then the next morning, then we will have our annual, our quarterly meeting at the AOC offices. And that will begin at 10:30. And so we're going to have a chance to have some time together. And of course, to honor Justice Lee. And so I know she's going to have more than a few honors, but certainly we look forward to honoring her and her service to this commission. And so I want to thank you again, all of you committee folks. This has just been, the whole process works because of your dedication and your gift of time and your gift of your knowledge to this commission. And so I want to say thank you again. Anyone else have any closing comments they'd like to make? Okay. All right. Okay. Dana just pointed out, we're going to get the information out to everyone. And so I know that there's going to be a lot of work done between now and then, and we will get that work done. And I look forward to seeing all of you at a great event on the 17th and then meeting again on the 18th. So make sure, I hope we can all be there. That would be just delightful to see all of you in person. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, wave.